From layoffs to Google, this is Nikhil's story. With over 10 plus years of experience across startups, MNCs, and big techs, he joins us to discuss about software engineering, AI, and his Google journey. Let's dive into it. Nikhil, thank you so much for joining the podcast. It's going to be almost 1 year since you joined Google, right? So you're currently working as a senior software engineer there. So how is work like? Can you just give us the summary of your day-to-day work, the things that you're working on, and your experience so far in Google?
Sure. Like I worked in multiple different startup and product-based companies. So it's quite different here in Google because the type of work culture, the pace on which Google works on, of course, the scale, it's completely different from the places where I worked with. Overall, if you'll talk about my experience in last 1 year, it's pretty good. And I got to work on such a large scale product where currently I work in a platform team, right? Basically, any cloud product depends on our team. I wouldn't be able to talk much about in the details or the technicalities of the project, but yeah, those are the things which interest me a lot, and it's completely different. The roles and responsibilities are different. Lot of focus on the documentation is being provided over here. Like a lot of things has to be documented, each and everything, in case someone else got a chance to work in future. So those things are more highlighted here in Google. So it's good at the same time, but different from what I worked with.
Got it. So compared to your previous experiences, like how much of a responsibility increase that you faced in Google? So in terms of your ownership perspective, or in terms of the risk that you're allowed to take, is it comparable to your previous experience, or it's entirely different in Google?
Like, to be honest, it's a bit different from what I've experienced because in terms of the roles and responsibilities, are different individuals who have been assigned to work on a different set of project, different set of tasks. And in my previous organization, I got a chance to work on end to end, like how the product is designed, what all the features that has to be there in a product from the end user's perspective as well as from the engineer's point of view, right? Both of things have been given an opportunity, and it was my, or you can say, an individual decision, whoever is owning that particular product, like what all needs to be built. So in terms of the roles and responsibilities, I would say it have been decreased here in Google. But in terms of the criticality and scale, of course, like here it's more important because if anything goes wrong, it can impact a large chunk of users, and also revenue loss could be the potential reason if something goes wrong here in Google. So yeah.
Okay. So you're talking about the end-to-end ownership, right? Where you got a chance to completely own the product and take more independent decisions in your previous organization. Like, could you share some light there? Like, could you explain a bit in depth regarding that?
Sure. So let's talk about my experience in Udan, right? Back in 2019, when I joined Udan, there was a product engineer role. That was a complete new role to me. And not much companies or not many companies have this type of roles, right? For an engineer. That particular role was there was
Mm.
no product managers altogether. Like there were no product managers at all in Udan. As an engineer, you are the product manager, you are the developer, you are the QA, you have to do the quality assurance, everything. So you have to own a product in which you will take decisions what type of product features that product should have. And how you will get that information, you will, let's suppose I was taking care of the supply chain, right? And within supply chain, there were three verticals: first mile, mid mile, and last mile. And I was the primary owner for first mile. If I'll simplify it more, anything related to a seller touch pointing in an e-commerce company is known as first mile. Let's suppose a
Okay.
buyer is in city one, seller is in city two. So whenever an order is getting placed, then picking up the order from the seller, if it's a return, then shipping that product back to the seller, anything related to the seller touch pointing, that comes under the first mile. And I was the primary owner for first mile. So when I say end-to-end responsibility, it was my responsibility to go to the field visits, to visit the warehouses, to visit the sellers, to get to know like what type of day-to-day challenges that they are facing in the product that I have built or that I have been owning, right? And from that perspective, we need to find out, okay, these are the features, these are the things that needs to be there, which can make a seller life easy or a first mile pickup warehouse life easy, right? Those type of decision has to be taken, and the key factor behind all these decisions was the metrics, right? Like everything has to be backed up by number. So there are a lot of metrics that a particular product would be owning, and we have to work in the direction like what are the current number of those metrics, what are the targets for the quarter that we are planning to achieve via any sort of technical solution or a product solution, right? So starting from what needs to be built to building the front end and back end both for that particular feature, then deploying it on the field, getting the reviews, feedback from the on ground members who will be using those features. So this end-to-end responsibility was being given to me, right? So this is something which I haven't experienced anywhere in my last like 11 to 12 years of journey, right? So this was something new and challenging at the same time where I got to know like what is the end cycle of a particular product or a particular feature. What is the reasoning behind a particular feature, why we are building that, all those things I got to learn from that particular role. Basically, I got
So,
an opportunity to see the behind the scenes, like what actually happens when someone is using the app or the feature which you have built on, right? There might be a scenario where you might have thought something else while developing that feature, but the end user who will actually be using it, they might not be using it to the full potential, or they might not be using it the right way to get the best out of it. So those things are very important for a builder where to validate that, okay, is something happening what was expected from that particular feature or from that particular product, right? Once that expectation matches and you are the one who validates it what you have built, then the delta is very less in those type of scenarios and it brings out a very good throughput and it really comes out as a success for a particular product.
right. So you didn't have any separate product managers or business analysis to do all this kind of job, right? So it has to be purely done by the engineers, if I understood correctly.
Yeah, we do have the operations team where there will be operations stakeholders who will be actually driving anything on the ground which you have built. They will definitely help you to visit the warehouses, to get connected with the real people who will be using that particular product from the end user point of view. They will help you to understand the day-to-day pain points because they are the ones who will present in the physical warehouses on a daily basis, right? I, as an engineer, of course, I get an opportunity to visit, but the frequency would be not as much as compared to those guys who are actually on the ground and which have some technical mindset as well as they are the managerial type of people who take care of the operational aspects of a particular product, right? So those are the one of the stakeholders, and of course the data engineering team was there who will help you extract out any type of metrics from that big data and from a large chunk of data, how the data can be abstracted out, what type of metrics you would want to get the information. So these are the two stakeholders where we used to communicate on a day-to-day basis, or I would say on a weekly basis.
Okay, interesting. So after Udan, you were working with Scalar for some time, and then you joined Nielsen, right? And I know that like both in Scalar and Nielsen, you managed a bunch of people. If I am not mistaken, you were working as a staff software engineer in Scalar, and then you were working as a member of technical staff for at Nielsen. So now you are back to an IC role in Google, right? So can you walk us through the journey, like how feels to manage people versus being an individual contributor, and what was the experience so far?
Like throughout my initial 8 to 9, or I would say 7 to 8 years of my journey, I have worked purely as a engineer, or you can say full stack engineer for some extent for 4 to 5 years. When I got an opportunity, so even though when I was working as a full stack engineer, I was leading a team of 6 to 8 members in my previous organizations as well, right? Sometimes what happens in these type of startups is there wouldn't be any particular designation to manage that will be given to you, but indirectly as a senior engineer you will be managing or you will be owning the technical aspects as well as the little people management aspect of your particular team, right? There wouldn't be any specifically manager or a people manager that would be required in such startups. As a leader, as a team lead, you are expected to do both the things, right? So I have been doing that in Udan as well, unofficially. But in Scalar, when I joined as a staff engineer, I by the time I left Scalar, I was leading a team of 15-member cross-functional, where the transition from an IC to engineering manager starts from the later phase in Scalar, right? I joined as a staff engineer. For 6 to 8 months, I was leading a team of 8 members, technically as well as managerially as well. And then my charter got increased and I got another team, which makes the total count around 15 members. And my designation was transition from staff engineer to engineering manager in training, EMIT. So this was the designation which was being given to me in the later phase of Scalar, where I was officially managing a lot of members and I was also the technical lead for both the teams, or I would say both the projects. So there, from there, the official journey to managerial role gets started, and When I used to be purely an IC, I used to think that the managerial role would be an easier one, or the managerial job would be an easier. You just have to take care of the people's work. You wouldn't be like, you just have to take care of the people in the team and the work, right? I used to think like that. But once I became the manager, to be honest, it is more tougher job than an IC, because as an IC, you only need to take care of your own work, but as a manager, you have to take ownership of whatever the number of people that are working under you, right? So it's really challenging. At the same time, to be a good manager, you can't micromanage, or it's not an ideal way to micromanage everything, or on a hourly basis, on a daily basis, to ask each of the individual, like, what are you working on, what's the status, what's the update. You have to provide that freedom, and you have to build that trust within the team, which will eventually help you to go in the direction where people will start respecting you as a manager, and they will respect your decisions as a manager as well, right? So that was the little bit challenging in the transitioning phase at that point of time. And when I joined Nielsen, I joined as an MTS4, but again, their path was initially finalized itself before even I joined, that 5 to 6 years down the lines, I'll be promoted to engineering manager. I joined as principal engineer MTS4, but again, in the next appraisal cycle, I was being promoted to engineering, senior engineering manager, where again I was leading two team of 16 to 17 members across. And that was a bit of more challenging journey, because the people were from different background. The folks who were in Nielsen came from different background. Few were from service background, service based company. Few were from the background of a product based startups. Few were from the MNCs. So different mix of people was there. So there also a bit of more learning as a manager came into the picture, where I had to learn how to handle different type of people, how to get best out of the people who are available in your team, what are their weaknesses, what are their strengths. So those transition journey was bit fascinating as well as bit challenging, because the role and responsibilities were completely different from what I expected when I was an IC. And eventually, and now coming to the Google as an IC, I realized that it might be a bit too early for me to be a manager when I joined a company which is at a large scale. And I thought, as an individual, as an engineer, there are more lot of stuff which I would want to explore in such a good platform, where I would be given an opportunity to work on a bigger product, on the end user, where a lot of, like, all of us are an end user of Google here and there, right? Be it Google Maps or be it YouTube, whatever we consume on a daily basis, we do use a product which Google owns, right? So I thought that it would be a better opportunity to think through again whether I would want to be in a managerial role or I would want to be in an IC role. Of course, eventually down the line, I would want to be in a managerial role, but I think as I realized working in that role in two companies, I realized that it might be too early for me to step up into that role. So that's why I decided to be part of an individual contributor again in Google, and to experience what a scalable product looks like, or how to build a scalable product as a developer's point of view. So this is something which I wanted to experience, and hence I was able to go back as an IC.
तो आप बोल रहे हो कि like for your next promotion at Google, you'll be preferring to choose a managerial role or something like an L6 staff engineer, right?
Definitely. Like, this is the path which I look forward.
Like as an L5, as an L5, if you look at the role description, you are to do a bit of people management as well, right? Like
Mhm.
not equivalent to a manager, but in a small scale, like mentoring juniors and giving technical directions to your junior folks and then unblocking them wherever they hit any roadblocks. So are you getting to work from that perspective, or is it purely IC for now?
So it depends on project to project, right? Like, the very first project which I got in Google was purely as an individual contributor. Like, I have to single-handedly work on a particular project where the complete ownership of that project relies on me, right? But in the current project which I'm working on, I was then given an opportunity here and there to work with multiple junior team members for, like, let's suppose I divide the task into this subtask for a particular project, right? Within that, for 2 to 3 tasks, I have been given an opportunity to work with another junior. Then for the current list of tasks, I am working with another junior resource. So in current role and in the current day-to-day task, I have been given an opportunity to work with the members and to groom them, of course, because they are the newly grads, or you can say they are the ones with the lesser experience in the industry. So, yeah. Like now I am getting an opportunity to groom as well as to work with a team where I can utilize my experience to help them as well as to get the project succeed.
Okay. So let me now ask a question which most of the audience will be more interested to hear. Like, how was your interview experience in Google? Like, can you walk us through the initial recruiter contact? Like, how did you apply? Did you apply directly, or did you reach out to someone for referral? What are all the rounds on a high level? I know we cannot talk about questions
Mm-hmm.
or anything that
Mm-hmm.
discussed during the interviews, and
Mm-hmm.
mainly the team matching phase. Like, how long did it take from the last interview to your team match? Like, can you walk us through experience overall?
Sure. So I'll explain about, okay, before I start about my experience, in my total tenure, I appeared 3 times for the Google interview. The very first time when I appeared or when I tried to interview in Google, it was back in 2018, where like I wasn't able to move ahead after the 3 rounds of coding. And that was the very first experience for me as to take a Google interview. Then now fast forwarding to 2024, where, okay, so from Scalar, when I was trying to switch, uh, that was the first time when I appeared for the Google interview, and I applied it via LinkedIn post where some recruiter have posted an opening in the LinkedIn. I applied via that. Then within 1.5 months, all of my 5 rounds has happened. Like people, if who are interested, they can easily get what type of rounds are there as an L4, L5. So 3 rounds of data structure and then one system design and one googliness. All these rounds will be there. These are easily available. The format is easily available on the internet. Then after the 5 rounds, the decision maker is a hiring committee. Like there is a group of people who are not aware about who took your interview, how was your interview experience. They will only have the feedback of each round, right? So the hiring committee decided that, okay, the type of interview that I went through was not up to the mark for an L5. So they offered me an L4 position at that point of time. It was June 2024, if I remember correctly. And that is something which I wasn't interested in because it would not rely or it would not go with the experience that I hold at that time. And after 3 months, the same recruiter reached out to me again, stating that my cool down period have been done and I can again start the interview process in Google. By that time, I already joined Nielsen, but still, I was pretty much interested in Google, so I said yes. This was back in September 2024 where again the actual process started. So my all 5 round of interviews was closed in the later half of the October. If I remember correctly, 20 to 25th of October, all of my 5 rounds have been completed. And then now before going to the hiring committee, this time like the feedback was positive for all the rounds. And it was a festive season close to the New Year and the Christmas season. So a lot of teams were on holidays and my actual team matching started, like, if I remember, one of the team matching discussion happened in late November, but the other future ones was started in the January, like in mid January. So it took me like 2.5 months to get the right team because of the location constraint, as well as I was interested in the Bangalore location and there were few openings which recruiter reached out with me for the Hyderabad location, which I was not open at that moment. So I appeared for 4 to 5 team fitments, and then this was the team which I really liked about, and the type of work was aligning with what I was expecting from my next role. So in March 2025, I got the opportunity, like I got the offer letter, the things have been finalized. So if I'll talk about the whole duration, it took around close to 7 months from the process where it actually started the second time after the cool down period. And the interview process was good, but of course, it takes some time to find out the right fit and the right team for you because it's not like a typical MNC where you will be hired for a particular team. Here in Google, you will be hired first and then you will be given an opportunity to choose your own team, which is the best thing about it. So, hence, good things take time. And yeah, so I was pretty much happy with whatever time it took so that I fall in a place where I actually wanted to be in.
Yes. So when recruiter reached out to you after 3 months after
Mhm.
the previous interview, Did you have to go through all the interview rounds again, or just like one or two auditions?
No, no, no. It was purely from scratch. Like, it has nothing to do with what happened 3 months back. Like, it was purely from scratch. None of the interviewers were aware that I am appearing again or whatever. It was completely the new process, which started from like the step zero.
Okay. What was your preparation strategy? Were you in touch with? Were you used to constantly solve DSA questions on a day-to-day basis, or like when the recruiter reached out, did you ask for some time for preparation, then started, or how was it?
So now let me talk about one of the hard phase of my life. When I appeared for the Google interview in May 2024, at that time my role was impacted in Scalar, and I had 2 months of time where 2 months of severance have been paid and 2 months of time was given at the exit from Scalar. So those were the days where I was anyways preparing on a daily basis, morning to night for the interviews, because I had to get a new job in a very short span of time, with a very competitive market. We all know, with the type of market that I've been in the IT world from last 2 to 3 years, it's very competitive and the demand is too high. And I mean, the demand is very limited and the supply is too high for the jobs. So at that point of time, I was purely morning to night. I only had one job, which is to prepare for the interviews, right? So I was aggressively preparing for the lead code practices, for the data structure. I divided my day in such a way that for 4 to 5 hours, I need to practice for the data structures. For 2 to 3 hours, I need to practice for system design. So that was the time where I got ample amount of time to prepare it for. Hence, my preparation was bit better as compared to if I would have prepared working in a company and to work on my day-to-day task as well as to prepare for the interview. It would have been definitely difficult. So maybe that was an opportunity. It was a good thing or bad thing. Like, in the retrospect, you can always say that it's a good thing because you ended up in a good place, but those type of things are never good from the mental health point of view and as well as from the your career's point of view. So that was the phase where I prepared myself a lot for the Google interview, and hence when I appeared for the second time as well, I asked for a 20-day period to brush up my concepts again. And because I recently prepared for all the interview and the data structure practices and everything. So I asked a 15 to 20 days of period before I actually started my interview process again from the recruiter.
Thank you so much for sharing that. I mean, unfortunately, layoff has become a common scenario in 2026 since
Right.
2025, right? With all these advancements in AI and all those stuff. So, just wanted to ask you, like, what was your mental state at that point of time when you got impacted in Scalar?
Mhm.
So, did you feel pressurized or yeah, chill? I'll prepare. करूं, I'll eventually crack some companies. Did you have that confidence, or how was it? Like, can you just walk us through that so that we can understand what was going through in your mind?
Sure. So, first of all, that was all of a sudden decision. Like, nothing was planned, and it was because of the funds and the profitability of the company. So, from the scaler's point of view as well, like, I would not blame anyone for these things, because if I think from a business owner's point of view or from an entrepreneur point of view, of course, you will never want these things to happen. But once these things have happened, for the initial time I thought that okay, it's fine, because I was prepared with my skills. I knew that at least I'll get any type of job. I wasn't worried about that I'll not get any job in 2 months, but the challenge for me was to be in a good phase, because once you will be in the stress, right, like you will have a pressure to find a job. It was not just to find a job, you have to find a job that aligns with your career path, right? You wouldn't want to go to a place, then again 1 or 2 months down the line you would still want to explore. You wouldn't want to be in those scenarios, because it wouldn't be good for the company as well, which you will join for the interim purpose, and it wouldn't be a good thing from your point of view as well, right? So for initial 5 to 10 days, I thought that okay, I'll control my thoughts, I'll centralize everything, whatever I'm thinking, I'll start preparing. Of course, it was a tough phase. Mentally, I was very stressful at that point of time, because getting a job in that market itself was very difficult. And that was a phase where a lot of big MNCs have also laid off, like Meta also laid off in that duration, and there were people from X as well at that point of time. So lot of cream, good people were there in the market who were looking out for a job, right? So you have to compete with the best minds across at that phase of time. So that was the phase where I thought that I'll apply here and there and I'll get the calls, but unfortunately that didn't happen. In first 15 days, I didn't receive a single call from any of the platforms, be it Naukri, be it LinkedIn, be it InstaHire. I applied everywhere, but I didn't receive a single call at that point of time. I tried to apply it on the career portal as well on multiple companies, but I didn't hear anything from anyone, right? So that time I decided that okay, I think it's going to be more challenging now for the rest of the days. Then I decided to reach out to my colleagues, my friends, like because I worked in multiple startups, so I had good connection throughout the board where a lot of my friends and ex-colleagues are working in multiple places. Then I took referrals from them, and then eventually 5 to 10 days later, when the first interview call came up, I was like, okay. And that is something where the good phase has started. I was getting calls even from the without referrals as well. I started getting some calls. So I appeared for like I literally gave interview for 37 companies in that duration, and for each company 4 to 5 interviews. That was sort of a very unique as well as very challenging phase where your whole day will be like for approx 6 to 7 hours in a day, you are giving interviews, you are explaining the same thing to everyone. You are in that zone where, but like, if it doesn't click at any point of time, because it can't be possible, right? Where all your 8 hours for 60 days will be the best. You will be in your low. Sometimes your mind will not be in the right state. You would be thinking something else. And the pressure of an interview, like for the big companies, right? Like I appeared for Atlassian, I appeared for Coursera, for DP World. There were a lot of big names for which I gave interview in that particular phase, right? So a lot of pressure, and there were a few favorites as well where you would want to put some extra effort. Where if something goes wrong, you'll eventually be disappointed. A lot of all those thoughts were running here and there in mind. Google was in the picture, yeah. So definitely, I wouldn't say that I was in chill mode. That okay, I'll get a job. Of course, I was in a little relaxed mode. I wouldn't say chill mode for the first 5 to 10 days, but eventually, when I realized that things are not as easy as I expected, until and unless I got my first offer, even after getting the first offer, I wasn't chill because I was in Jaipur, my hometown, by the time I was working with Scalar and Udan. Like I was working remotely after COVID, so it was another challenge to move out from Jaipur. Like I was looking out for Gurgaon location. I wanted to stay close to my hometown because of some dependencies, and as well as in the home, I wanted to stay close to my home. But then I got my first offer, which was in Bangalore. Everything was good, but again, in back of my mind, I was wondering like whether I would be able to go to Bangalore or not. There were a lot of thoughts which are going on in my mind. How will I settle up everything? And how will I get out of my comfort zone? So yeah, those were the phases which I experienced in those 2 months.
And that must have been a really tough phase for you, man. But I'm pretty sure looking back now, you can say with confidence that everything turned out to be great.
Definitely, Sharath. Like again, like when you do retrospect to something that has happened in the past, it's very easy in the future to say about it, okay, everything happens for good. If I wouldn't have been laid off, I wouldn't have been in Google or XYZ, whatever the thoughts which can come up, right? But all those things we can easily say after those things have happened. Unfortunately, if I wouldn't have ended in a better place or in a good place, then we would have been taken that particular thing completely in a negative direction. So yeah, like at this stage, I can definitely say I ended up in a better position.
Makes sense, man. Makes sense. I mean, do you have any advice for people who are getting impacted with this layoff, like in terms of preparation, or like how to structure the day so that they can get the maximum out of their preparation?
Yeah, from my
Those things.
past, sure. From my past experiences, one thing which I realized in this industry, in IT industry, is nothing is permanent. Like gone are those days where people used to talk about the job security. There is nothing known as job security, right? Because lot of things are being changes at a very high speed because of the AI came into the picture. You have to be on your toes at any day, at any given day, right? You cannot relax in any of your role in any of the organization. You have to be well prepared. You have to groom yourself irrespective of whether how comfortable you are in a given position, right? So one thing which I realize is always be prepared with whatever is going in the industry, like whatever is the latest thing that is going on. Try to spare some time out of your whole day to upgrade yourself. I am not saying that you have to be prepared for interview on a daily basis. I'm not saying that particular thing, but at least make sure what is going on in the market, what's new that have evolved in the industry, right? That is one thing. And another thing which may sound really harsh, but always be prepared that it can happen anytime with anyone in any organization, where you go to the office in the morning and you will be asked to move out on that day itself, irrespective
Yeah.
of how good you are. So be mentally prepared with, do not sit in a comfort zone that, okay, now I am in the Google, I am in Meta, I am in XYZ FANG company. Now I am done. Like I am at the best. Now nothing can happen. No, you have to be mentally prepared. Anything can happen anytime. Be mentally prepared that if that thing happens, I am prepared. Like I'll
Mhm.
look forward to whatever best that I can get out of it. So that is one thing which I would like to advise, and be in a good state of mind, because one thing which I honestly experienced with me is when I was in stress, I was neither able to prepare good for the interviews. I was not able to perform well in the interviews because the confidence when I used to speak in an interview, I was very nervous. Like because on back of the mind, everything was like, whatever if this interview goes wrong? What if I didn't get a job in next 1 or 2 months, right? All those things will keep on going into your mind. So you have to be in your best state of your mind. You have to believe in yourself and you have to try. The only thing which you can do is try, try, try. Like eventually, whenever the good time comes, you will end up in a better situation for sure. So just believe in yourself and be prepared for any type of scenario that can happen. Like don't sit in your comfort zone anywhere and at any stage of your career. Like this is
Yeah,
something
absolutely,
which
man.
I realize.
Yeah, absolutely right. I mean, the worst thing about all these layoffs are like it's not even performance based. Like there is nothing that you can
Definitely,
do
right?
just to make sure that you're not in that list. Like even if
Like
you are
to
the top performer, you can end
correct,
up getting laid
right?
off.
Like to give a very good example of this, like layoffs has happened in Adobe, Twitter, Meta, Microsoft, Google, everywhere those things have happened in past, right? And we all know how tough it is to be in to enter in those type of organizations, to clear those interviews, right? So we all know the folks who were working in those organizations, there were no doubt in the capabilities, in the technical capabilities of those folks, right? But still they have been asked to move out. So it's not like you cannot dishearten yourself that okay, I'm not good enough, right? All those people were good enough to crack those interviews, to work for a longer. People have worked for more than a decade in those organizations. So it's completely based on the business, right? Like how your business is performing. Like a lot of competition has occurred, lot of competitors, everything is like everyone is on their toes in the IT industry these days. So it's not always about the performance and it's not always your mistake. So don't think anything harsh or don't get disheartened with all these type of things. Like this is the reality, this is the new future which we have to accept, and the sooner we accept, the better we will be able to cope up with these type of scenarios in the coming career phase.
Understood, understood. The other thing is the social stigma around it, right? Like people are hesitant to say that I got laid off because people, we understand layoffs are not based on performance, but if you say the same thing to our relatives, like we think that what they might perceive of me, like they might think that I did not perform well, that's why I got laid off. So this is one of the important message that has to go to everyone, that all these layoffs that are happening, it's not performance based, it's purely because of the AI impact.
Definitely. And even the ones where the reason have been given as performance basis layoff, don't get disheartened with that. There might be a possibility that you are not able to perform for that particular product. It doesn't mean that you are not good enough to work in a different product or on a different domain, right? It's always, if you are in that field, you are good enough. Maybe not for that organization, but definitely there are n number of other organizations where you will be good enough. So never doubt yourself, even if someone has said on your face that you are not performing well and you have been asked to go out because of your performance. It doesn't matter that you are not good enough for anything. There might be a possibility you are not good enough for that particular role for that organization, but definitely there are n number of opportunities that are available in the market where you will be better version of your own self, right?
Exactly.
So
Yeah. I mean,
that is
that's a
one thing
really
which I
important
would,
point. Yeah.
yeah,
That's a really important point that you said. Like your self worth isn't tied to a particular role or a particular company, right? So it can be, you can be a good fit anywhere. So you just have to keep trying and wait for your right moment, right?
right, definitely.
Yeah. Coming to talk about the AI, right? Since we touched
Hmm.
upon that topic, like we know that AI is automating a lot of jobs, and in
Hmm.
your day to day basis, how much of an impact that you've seen, like AI has on the day to day coding, brainstorming in all those areas.
Well, I'll talk about the pros and cons of how the AI has evolved and how it has impacted my day to day. Because we are the ones in the industry where we have worked from the generation where we have to read the official documentation of anything in order to get the answers out. We used to spend a lot of time on Stack Overflow. We need to do a lot of Googling in order to find out the resolutions to our problems, right? That was a phase where we used to make a lot of effort to understand something. The use case was not just to solve the error, because to even to solve that error, you have to go through the whole documentation. Once you will go through it, you will get 10 things out of it, and out of those 10 things, only one or two things will help you to get that issue resolved, but those 8 things also will be with you in your mind, so that in future if something comes up, you need not to waste again that much of time, because you know lot of extra things when you actually stuck in the first time, right? Those were the time where AI was not there and where you need to actually manually find out the solutions, right? There your brain was being trained in order to remember those things, in order to understand the depth, in order to understand the internality, functionality, how it works internally, whatever is designed, like the for loop or a very basic recursion, like how it internally works. All those things we used to focus more in depth in the technicalities of those things, right? But once AI has came into the picture, it's very easy. Like you just need not to worry about the syntaxes. You are not worrying about the unit test cases. Everything, you are so reliable on that AI that, like, there is one saying that AI will eat your job, right? But what I personally feel is if AI won't be there, then also it will eat your job because you are so much dependent on those AI tools these days that now if you will go to read the official documentation, it will be too boring for you. You wouldn't be able to get the best out of that documentation because you are not used to it anymore. You are used to simply typing the problem statement and just getting the solution in within seconds or within milliseconds, right? That is the downside of AI, which I personally feel. I'm not sure if like others also feel the same way. The good thing about it, there were other things where we need to spend lot of time or we need to give our bandwidth in those scenarios which was not productive enough. It's always important to put your time in a place which is productive, right? So those things have definitely helped, like documentation, like the type of document or the type of wording which we used to do in a document, those might not be very friendly readability or all those things. Those things have definitely improved once AI came into the picture. It will help you to rephrase your technicalities in order for a layman, for a non-tech person to also to understand those type of documentations. Let's suppose you want to explain something which is technical for you, but the person which you want to explain, be it a product manager or someone from a non-technical background. Earlier, what used to happen is because we are used to the technical terms, we will try to explain it in those terms only. But now, when AI came into the picture, it's very easy for to transform your thoughts into a non-technical perspective as well, which covers all the aspects of the technical, and as well as it will be easier for a non-technical person as well to understand those same syntaxes. Like if anything goes, if your syntaxes are incorrect, the code readability, like because a lot of co-pilots are also there. So those things have definitely improved, but I feel it has both pros and cons, because if something goes wrong, let's think about very bluntly, if AI decided to quit, or if later 3 or 4 year down the line, no AI would be there, then again,
Yeah.
the type of mind that we have developed would not be that effective to again work on those type of complex problems. So we are
Yeah.
eventually degrading the learning that our mind can store.
Exactly. I mean, even I feel that the attention span, the patience of people have reduced significantly after AI. Because even I find myself like going to AI for even simple tasks, right? For example, if
Correct.
I used to send an official email before the AI
Hmm.
era, I would think for some time, phrase the sentences, and then I send out the email. Even if the email is not
That good
syntactically or
enough.
grammatically correct, but still it's completely written by me. Now I write my points, what I want to send, copy paste into a GPT or something, and then it will give me a full grammatically perfect email to send. So the
More
good thing is
sugar
that will be
coated, more
yeah.
fancy phrases in your email.
Other thing is like I've become kind of lazy to think while writing something. So I find myself like increasingly reaching out to AI for help. So that is something I really want to reduce myself. So that is something that I'm currently trying to work on. Even in terms of coding, right? I feel like
Okay.
people have stopped learning the fundamentals of coding. Even if the
Definitely.
management asks you to write code in a new programming language, people hardly try to understand the fundamentals of the programming language because everything is currently written by AI. So eventually, I feel like it will create more problems than expected. So that is something that we need to wait and watch how it
Right.
evolves.
Right. Because the problem here is, let's suppose you are a Java developer. You have been asked to write a particular script in Python. Earlier, you would have been given this task. You would have gone to the documentation of Python, the basics of Python. What are the syntax changes? What are the differentialities that exist in Python over Java? All those things you would make some effort to understand. Right now, what you will do? Either you will directly ask AI to write the script, if the script is a bit complicated, you will write it in Java and you will ask AI to convert it into Python. Like, you haven't learned anything about the fundamentals of the new programming language. You haven't put any effort in understanding how it is different from Java. What are the pros? What are the cons? Like, all those learning, the curiosity has been literally like decreased a lot. Like, no one is curious about knowing anything. They are just getting that, okay, and how many less number of prompts they are getting their answers. Like, people are more focusing on how well I can ask the question from AI, that I need not to spend more time on AI even to get my answers. Like, they are
Yeah.
trying very hard to just get the answers in a single click or in a single go. I feel it will definitely reduce the sharpness of your mind in terms of the technical and as well as your day-to-day perspective. But this is what it is, because the expectation, the timeline, the deadlines all have been changed once AI is in picture, because people will expect you to work way faster than you used to do earlier, and all those things have changed. So even if you want to do, the timelines won't allow you to spend that much of time to understand the technicalities and the depth of those things.
Yeah, and I feel like the current freshers and the new grads are highly the most impacted with this brain rot because of AI. Because at least in our era, before AI, we spent some enough time to understand the basics of some programming language, right? So be it one or two. If according to me, if I feel that if you know the basics of at least one programming language in depth, and picking up the other languages will be easy for you because the fundamentals don't change, right?
Definitely.
And the design patterns don't change. But the people who are just starting out, I'm pretty sure I've seen a lot of folks completely relying on AI for their day-to-day coding without even understanding the fundamentals of at least one programming language. So to sum up this discussion, do you have any advice for them on what to do and what not to do?
Like, I would still recommend each and everyone who is in the technical field, who are in a day-to-day coding roles and responsibilities, try to understand the basics and the internal functionalities and implementations of anything which you work on, because that would eventually help you for the longer run. If you wouldn't be knowing how a for loop work, or how a while loop works internally, why it is being designed, what is the time and space complexities. Whenever you will be given an opportunity to work for a complex algorithms for a complex problems, you will never be able to solve those things by your own. You will completely rely on AI to work it for you. And even in to solve those complex problems and algorithms, even AI with AI, it will take more time than you could have done it by yourself, because there will be lot of wrong suggestions. By the time AI will be more mature to solve those problems, you will be end up hitting your head into the wall to get the right things out of the AI. AI would give up with come up with a solution. You have to decode it. You have to go through it again. There will be some misses. You will be keep on doing those iterations, which are not ideal to spend, which is not even a productive way to spend your bandwidth, right? So I would always recommend to at least understand, or to spend, at least start with giving some little time in your starting phase, right? Whenever you have been given a project, or whenever you are new to somewhere, you definitely have some sort of breathing time or a breathing room where you can groom yourself, or a transition time will be given to you. Do not waste that time. That's really important, because that is the time where deadlines won't be on your head. You are not forced to work on something on a faster pace. That is the time where you can spend more time on the technologies which you will be going to work on, to understand the basics and the internal depth. And once that is done, it will eventually help you. Even if you want to use AI, you will be knowing what actually you have to ask for, right? How, because you will be knowing the internal implementation for that, you will be able to phrase your question more in a better way whenever even you will ask from AI, right? That will eventually help you, be it you use AI or not. It will definitely help you in longer run, and it will give you more confidence in your day-to-day
Got
task.
got it. That's sums it up regarding the AI discussion. So you have more than 10 years of experience in the industry, right? So starting as a system engineer in TCS, working as a senior software engineer at Google, you have seen different phases or different domains in the IT industry, starting with an MNC, steps, tech, and now the big tech, right? And I know personally that you have a small kid at home.
Mhm.
So you might have hustled earlier in your starting phase, and I'm not sure whether you get that enough time to do the work with the same intensity now, and you'll be competing with all the freshers with a lot of energy, right? So how do you deal with the situation, like, and how much of a work-life balance that you value now versus earlier?
Right. So I'll start with the beginning, right? Like, when I joined TCS, I joined back in 2014. and I was working for an internal project for Tata. At that point of time, I have been given an opportunity to work on Ruby on Rails as programming language, and everything was completely new to me from that point of view. So, if you'll talk about the technical journey from TCS to from going to the startup and to working as a senior software engineer in Google, the things are completely different. Like those are the two poles apart. The things are completely different. In TCS, I used to work on a particular project that to a particular feature because there are a lot of people who will be working on an same project and everyone will given an individual responsibility for everything. So you will be exposed to very limited set of data or very limited set of functionalities for a particular product. You will never get the bigger picture. You will, I mean, I'm not generalizing it. It may depend on the projects, but majority of the projects in the service-based companies, there are a lot of people to work on different aspects of a software life cycle, right? For deployment, there will be a different team. For QA, there will be a different team. Front end team would be different. Back end team would be different. So eventually down the line, when I started working with startups and when I got more responsibilities and ownership of the product, I evolved a lot from the technical point of view as well as from the problem solving mindset and from the problem solving skills have been improved a lot when I've been given that those type of opportunities. So like work life balance, of course, in startups there, like the work life balance will not be good because those were the days where you have to struggle, you have to hustle, because once you will put more time and effort in those times, you will be in a better place once you grow or once you will eventually gain some experience, right? Now, coming to your question, we all will be competitive with the higher energy freshers, right? So there is one saying which I feel which always remain true. Experience is something which will always have some upper hand on non-experiencing. Of course, they might have different ways of solving a problem, which of course can be a good thing. One thing which we have to accept as millennials or with more than a decade experience is be open. Do not be rigid about that whatever we know because we are experienced is right. No, there are a lot of new things which have evolved which we might not be aware about. uh, College grad might have come up with a solution which is more efficient, which is more faster to implement, and which will have more good impact on the metrics which you are chasing for. So always open for any suggestions. Compare everything with the numbers, facts. Everything has to be backed up by some sort of numbers, some metrics, some facts, so that it will be easier for both as a fresher or someone with experience to figure out, okay, what is the best for a particular product. So instead of competing with each other, let's learn from each other. Like there are some things which comes with the experience, and there are definitely some new things which, because they are more close to the technology day by day and they are very new and very recently close with the technology, they might be knowing more advanced things that have came in the market which you might not be updated with, right? So be open to learn from each other rather than compete with each other. Like this is what I feel, which will help
Got
you.
it. Yeah. Thank you so much for sharing that. Again, from TCS to Google, you have made multiple switches, right? And now you are in a stable position. So, what advice do you have for freshers in terms of switching in the early years of your career versus later? Versus
Okay.
later. Yeah.
So again, I'll not generalize this that you have to switch too frequently in your early stages of career, because that also depends on where you are starting, right? Like, because I was in a I studied from a tier 2 to 3 college, right? Like my college was not that great. And my first company also I started with TCS, right? So at that point of time, it makes sense for me to figure out something where I'm getting a more responsibilities or where I get more exposure to learn from. But these days, a lot of people are not hesitant to join a startup as their first company, right? The Gen Zs, or you can say the current generation, they are very open to take risks. They are not at all hesitant. They don't worry too much about that they need a big product, a big name, or everything. Like, so if you are starting your career from a place where you feel you are getting a lot of good learning and you are giving a good exposure to how a product or how a business works end to end, right? It's not mandatory at all to switch in your neither in your initial stages of your career or your later stages of career, right? It's not important, right? But if due to some reason you are starting from a place, I wouldn't name any company because everything is good. Whoever is giving you employment, we should be thankful. to those organizations, irrespective of whatever the salary bracket you are in. So if you feel that even the brand name is good, because you could be working in an Apple or Meta, but the type of project or the type of work that you are working on, you might not be learning, or your skills are not getting improved. If that's the case, definitely look out for another company. Don't run behind the brand or don't run behind the money for the initial stages of career. Try to grow yourself, try to gain those skills, which will eventually, once you have the skills, you can go anywhere, wherever you want. Like, you will have those skills, you will have that confident, you will be that confident, then you can crack any company's interview wherever you want. But for the initial stages of your career, I would highly recommend, don't run behind the money, don't run behind the brand. Be in a place where you feel on a day-to-day basis that your life is challenging. You should not feel that okay, you have a chill life. For the initial stages of your career, you should struggle, you should be in a hustle phase, you should put your best out of it. Like, don't think about the work life balance and focus mainly on your skills evolving. You have to evolve your skills. That's all what I would say, irrespective of whichever company you are in. If that is there,
Got it.
no need to switch. You will eventually grow in a single organization as well. If the work which you are working is not something great, definitely look out for something which more aligns with the technicalities, or which help you grow more in the technical as well as the problem solving mindset.
Got it. So, just purely from a learning perspective, for
Mhm.
freshers, like, do you recommend joining an MNC or a startup?
If you want to start your career, try to go for a startup. Don't think about the job security, work life balance. Work for whatever duration you get an opportunity, right? Be it 100 employee company or be it 1,000 employee company. Look out for a company where the product is interesting, whatever they are working on is interesting, and they are solving something. Like, try to be a problem solver before a developer. Like, that is what, if I have to summarize in one line, look out for a place which help you to be a problem solver rather than just a developer. Once you are able to
Nice.
find that difference, it's very easier for you to take that decision, like whether you have to go for MNC or a product based startup or a normal startup, right? That won't make much difference if you have that understanding of what you're looking for.
That's a solid advice, Nikhil. Thank you so much for sharing that. And yes, it was really nice talking with you today. Even I have a lot more questions that I prepared for you, but in the interest of time, we can cut it short. And I hope to see you in future episodes so that we can discuss further on those perspective.
Definitely, Sharath. I really enjoyed the conversation, and it recalled me about all my past journey in my career and everything. It was really nice recalling everything. And I would definitely love to be part of your journey, as whatever you are starting it, which we can help the current generation or whoever is available in this industry. Definitely, let's look out for a good cause, and hopefully we'll at least make 1% of difference in their lives with these discussions.
Thank you so much. I
Look
mean,
out.
it really means a lot. It's a plan. Let's see how it goes.
Thanks a lot, Sharath, for inviting me.
Thank you.
And I really enjoyed it and hope all the very best for your new journey. And we all are there with you. Thank you, Sharath. See you.
And that's a wrap on this episode. Hope you enjoyed the conversation and took away something valuable. Please subscribe for more such discussions. See you in the next one.